Hi there, Chris. Welcome.
Hello.
Hi there, and welcome to everybody to our broadcast today. Our 45-minute time today is going to go very, very quickly. We have a nice structured conversation here with some experts in AI and automation. And our focus today is going to be on revenue growth and specifically for enterprises and B2B markets. So while the intended audience is generally those who are perhaps CXOs, I think really anyone who's interested in leveraging AI to maximize your business and to get more out of it and to even understand it is going to get a lot out of today's conversation. So, just a brief introduction here. What we're going to talk about today are some key challenges and bottlenecks companies face, particularly enterprises face, when implementing AI, strategies for maximizing ROI and revenue growth, and we're going to hear from each of our panelists on these topics, and how do we have foster a culture and a mindset of continuous improvement and innovation and strategies for that, as well as what are some actionable items, what are some key practical steps that everybody can take right from the get-go. And I'm just going to, there we go, put someone on mute there so that we can get rid of that beeping. Okay, and now, but who am I? My name's Alex James. I work with SetDigit. I have over 10 years experience in the enterprise SaaS world, working with large companies like Workday and Slack on their product implementations, from strategy for change enablement and technology enablement and learning strategies. And lately, I've been working with SetDigit's enterprise clients with an eye for on the future of AI-powered solutions and integrations and how we best tackle that. So we have a really amazing, diverse panel today, and I want to introduce them in just a moment. But just a few other level setting things. We're going to send the recording to anybody who's on the live stream watching this. We're going to send you the recording afterwards. We can do some Q&A throughout. So if you do see an opportunity and you want to ask a question, I'd be happy to do a deep dive. But otherwise, we are going to follow along on our agenda as we go, and so we won't have a dedicated Q&A time at the end. So feel free to pop any questions that you have along the way, and we'll try to integrate them as we can. And then there'll be an exit survey that we send following up. So first, I'd like to just say a bit about AI and automation here. And one thing that I think will help set the tone today is that AI automation, it provides enterprises with an unprecedented gain in efficiency, and it streamlines processes and it reduces manual workloads. I think this we all pretty much know. However, these efficiencies do not automatically translate into productivity boosts or revenue growth. And so for this to happen, companies that you have to think strategically and you have to think about how you're going to align your AI initiatives with key business goals. And this includes integrating AI seamlessly into existing workflows and utilizing data analytics for informed decision making and fostering a culture that embraces technology. So by doing so, enterprises can leverage AI automation to enhance productivity and achieve sustainable growth, and translating these efficiencies into tangible business outcomes. And so that's kind of the theme that I'd like to lay out there. I think that gets the conversation started. And first, I'd like each panelist to introduce themselves and answer one of these key questions. So I have a key question for each panelist to respond to here. So we'll start with Paul. Paul, would you like to tell everyone who you are and maybe speak to the question here about what key factors CXOs should consider to
Sure.
ensure
Great.
significant growth?
Alex, thanks. Hello, everyone. I'm Paul Gullivan. I'm the founder and CEO of Cambridge Transformation Partners. And we're an advisory firm that focuses on developing and deploying comprehensive AI strategies around go to market, demand generation, demand fulfillment, automation, AI enabled CRM, and really helping organizations build the business case, roadmap, and transform. And I've been doing this for over 25 years, both in business and as a management consultant in firms like PwC and Capgemini. So I've seen a lot of change. And what I've found that if you look at the factors that are driving revenue growth with AI, a lot of it depends upon your business model and industry, but there's three commonalities or three themes that I'm seeing throughout the course. The first is there's customer experience driven use cases. So people are getting feedback and taking a fresh look at their overall customer journeys. They're building business cases around how a customer learns about a company, how do they buy or procure their goods and services, how do they use them, what types of payment methods, service support type of activities. So they're really overlaying a new dimension of AI that goes with people, process, and technologies. Then comes the revenue growth use cases. And there's really four use cases that are really prevalent today. One is lead generation. You probably have seen a lot of that out in the marketplace. There's thousands of vendors out there doing outbound cold calling, direct messaging, email campaigns. The second would be around content marketing. AI brings a whole new way of creating content and the whole content creation process with text, image, and video, or even building landing pages. The third is really paid advertising. How do we build or how do we optimize and perform our SEO related to paid ads? And how do I perhaps do bid management so I get real time feedback and costing or pricing on my advertising? And finally, it's all about sales productivity and efficiency. Things like summarizing conversations, email, call notes. I was talking to a field sales rep earlier this morning. She was leaving an appointment, and through natural language processing, she was updating her call notes and the stage of her opportunity as she was getting into the car. Great productivity driver, along with next step actions and recommendations. Forecasting is going to be huge. And then administration like call planning, calendaring, and commission tracking. And then finally, people that are doing this right are preparing their people and then everyone in their organization for AI. And if you think about it, 80% of knowledge workers, and that's marketing, sales, legals, people that think and do creative activities for a living in their job, will be AI assisted in some degree in the next 1 to 2 years. So there's some fear and resilience out there in the marketplace. And this isn't just standard change management. AI has to be communicated and put into a program that enables your people to be empowered. It also involves designing and thinking through the human machine relationship, asking questions about who analyzes data, who decides based on the results of the analysis, and who acts based on the decision. So that really drives to building trust in AI with your people. And then that drives really success in the overall upskilling process. And Alex, these are really the factors that unlock the full potential of revenue growth with AI.
Yeah, thank you for that, Paul. Yeah, really great insights, and we'll have some time for a follow-up in a moment. And again, if anyone has any questions along the way, feel free to put them into the webinar chat. But next, we're going to go to Irvin. So, Irvin, could you please introduce yourself and maybe respond to this particular talking point here about how AI, in your experience, can um, disrupt traditional processes and drive revenue gains?
Sure. Thank you for the quick intro. So, yeah, my name is Erwin Arnold. I'm CEO and founder of Talox AG. So, what we are doing is we build an add-on for HubSpot on top of HubSpot to segment databases. So, exactly that what Paul is saying. So, find the right customer at the right moment, etc. Fully automated with AI. So, in the background. I think looking at AI currently in the market, it's really how I would bring it into life is really search for use cases. So this is similar to what Paul was saying. So identify really high impact areas. So a good area for me, because I'm from that market, I had an agency before, is really marketing and sales. And I'm one of those 1,000 tools out there, Paul, using AI to make the life better. But what is significantly for me is really that people or companies really have to search for a high impact area. It's not good to bring it in for everything they can do. From my perspective, it's good to start in marketing. What you already mentioned is really that you look at the customer journey. You can create wonderful content with that. You can have wonderful chats with AI. in an automated way. When you look at airlines, you already can do rebooking through AI, etc., etc. So that's really one thing for the strategy to really identify also more revenue, so high impact areas. Second one for me is really drive data driven decisions because everyone is talking about data, and I think it will be 100% sure one topic we are talking about today. Without good data, you will fail. AI is a mathematical algorithm process. So if the data is not good, you will not get good results, or the predictions will not be good. So, and third one for me would be really start small and then scale fast, which for me means search again the high impact areas and then do just little things, not the big thing. We are not going to the moon tomorrow, but really in sales, there are wonderful small nitty gritty tools out there where you can enrich your existing data with profile information through AI, with decision making points, etc. So really start small and scale fast. That would be my strategy.
That's great. Really versatile advice too that applies in many areas, even outside of AI and automation, but really solid advice. Chris, thanks for joining us today as well. And I'd like to ask you about what groundbreaking opportunities you see for AI and automation in the enterprise landscape. How's it shaking things up? And please introduce yourself as well.
Sure. So on my end, I run primary hosting. We're a cloud brokerage platform. We have 400 partners, and we're able to match companies and organizations really with the right stacks for them that meet their budget and their requirements. What was really cool in 2022 in December, we started a Facebook group called ChatGPT for Business and Life. And from that, it's grown to 260,000 members and still growing. So we love our community, and from that, it's given us a lot of exposure to the latest in AI. And from that, it's been this like 15-month run from the very beginning of AI and that shock and awe now to committees and policy creation at the enterprise to best adopt AI. But the technologies that I see that are out there, they're going to be low code and no code. So they're going to be very easy to put into place, and they're going to use natural language, just English or whatever native tongue you may have to code, which is a whole new paradigm. This generative shift is going to enable us to build AI workflows in a way that automates some of that mundane task that we do often. So figuring out how to best set that up um, is within your organization and what you should look into. But I think it's no longer just specifically the CTO that needs to make this decision. It's those that are in the organization. What I also found, just quick plug, um, I'm at a sustainability summit today, and a group of executives have come together to sort of solve recycling by using AI. So, what I'm really finding interesting is that executives that did not have the time or capabilities to do something new have been able to leverage AI in a new way and not take away from their current business and not require creating a new startup. So, really, sort of internal projects that can bring good to the world are being approached and developed right in the enterprise.
Yeah, some super cool use cases cited there, and hopefully we'll be able to get into some of the other projects you're working on, Chris, in the next section. But first, I'd also like to move on to Ken. And Ken, if you'd introduce yourself and maybe speak to this point about, in your experience, how can these technologies revolutionize and sustain growth trajectories for enterprises?
Okay, thank you so much for inviting me. And I think I'm CEO of EdgeNectar, Silicon Valley-based startup company. We're focusing on actually providing private 5G solution. So I think talking before this startup, I work in almost 20 years in Ericsson, and also leading a Nasdaq listed company for 4 years. So I think my experience with AI, we started 2 years ago. Uh, involve AI technology is mainly as a user, we focus on technical support because we have a number of contractor, sub-supplier of different solution. So for technical support, we using one of these, Zendesk. We're working with them and to create this kind of support agents so that we have 4 or 5 different company with engineer expertise from different fields. So AI actually helping me to you really save cost and taking care customer support really in a smooth way. But I spend a lot of time initially, so you really need to work with each agent and working with customer so they understand, the process. And we have a customer like airport and hospital and residential, buildings. So we have different kind of technical requirement, and that's is using AI as a user. We we also put in our solution AI technology where we can simplify 5G network solution, and because this is not mobile network operator, they are not carrier, and they want to have a plug and play. That we deploy our patented proprietary AI technology, helping them to make life easier for them. So yeah, that's a short introduction from me. Thanks.
That's great. And I think some of those practical use cases that you're citing there, Ken, about help agents um, are really help ground the conversation in what we're trying to do today is look at those actionable strategies and exactly um, what challenges do we face when we're trying to implement these things on the ground? Because in theory, uh, we can design things from the ground up all day, but then actually putting them into practice is a different beast. And so at this point, I'd just like to open it up to the panel to discuss any of these points that strike you, and maybe we can have some follow-up questions based on this. But would anyone like to take a stab at any of these questions based on what the panel has thought about and discussed so far, and what you've seen in terms of bottlenecks and challenges? I'd just like to stay on this theme for a moment of bottlenecks and challenges you've seen.
Yeah, Alex, I'll take a first shot at that. Implementation, it is going to be costly and it is complex. Nothing's easy, especially with different types of variables and dependencies upon data, upon people, different types of vendors. But in looking at that first bullet point, I would prioritize three things related to cost and complexity. One is understanding the different pricing models. So there's hundreds of vendors out there in the marketplace, and there's three predominant models. One is consumption. So that's usually measured per thousands of tokens used, and a subscription, which is usually on a per month type of basis. For example, GitHub, I set my client up with GitHub several months ago. Copilot is anywhere from $10 to $39 per month based on per monthly subscription and consumption of tokens related to that. The second model is a pure play subscription. Think about Microsoft Copilot. We just built a quoting tool in Pilot or a digital companion, $30 per user per month. And then for the open source or the open models and custom developed type of models, think about outcome-based models, really providing incentives for the developer to think about the business concept, context, the workflow, the model refinements, and then getting pricing metrics based on an outcome, like maybe it's number of cases resolved that are rated satisfied by a customer. So know the models, know your deployment options. There's public and API services. Think of that as Google Translate, AI 21, or Grammarly. Basically, they're free. They are risky. The second is models as a service. Think about OpenAI, Anthropic, AWS. Requires tuning and customizations, perhaps. And then when you go into proprietary builds, building these models from scratch, that's a whole different animal with specialized task and performance controls to implement. So just be aware about the total cost to deploy. Understand the pricing models going into it, and don't forget things such as internal, external consulting, infrastructure, data security, application setup and integration, yearly run costs. It's indeed challenging, and the cost needs to be managed accordingly.
Yeah. And can I dwell on that for a moment, for any of the other panelists who want to jump in as well on risks in particular and perception of risk? Um, does anyone want to jump in on what any difference you've seen between perceived risk versus actual risk, particularly as data security? Because I think that we've definitely had some uh, because of a lack of knowledge around what this technology meant and how the data was being managed that goes into training models and what and how you can protect against that. Is there any initial risk that you think was real that's been solved for now, or was there always maybe some degree of maybe misperceived overinflation of risk that was never really there, and perhaps it was just kind of a little bit of scaremongering because it was a new and novel technology? Does that prompt any thoughts from anyone?
On my end, I see that being sort of twofold. Like, first, there was the risk that came out last year where you heard Samsung leaked their IP, their engineers, into the free OpenAI model. And that was a big news story. I think that's been patched pretty significantly. And if you want to use Microsoft Azure's API, have even further protections. So I think that there were issues early on, and those stories have really hit the news cycle, but maybe not have had the retraction now that they've sort of been solved. So I think that's one big solve point. The other, I would call this year the year of RAG, or retrieval augmented generation. That means, like, how do you train an AI model on your business data and organizational information? ChatGPT and Claude and all of these solutions are great, but they're very generic. They're a very generalized model.
Mm.
Until you're able to have your information in there, and a more is more approach with your organization, can you really leverage AI for your business and really avoid those hallucinations or confabulations, or just when the AI seems very confident but maybe is not fulfilling the factual criteria that you really need if you're a person to apply this in your organization.
Yeah,
Mm.
great thoughts there. Anything from Irvin or Ken on this
No, I
topic of
agree
conflicts
what
of interest?
Christopher is saying. So it brings me also to the second question here. So how can enterprises effectively manage data-related challenges? I think so. Since I'm in Europe, GDPR is very strict here, as you know, and maybe I can combine this with the next question a little bit. So here, the bigger organizations in the B2B space, they really do, in most of the cases, their own projects. So their own algorithms. Maybe they are on AWS to realize some functionality, but they would never give away their personal data because, and that brings me also to the second question. It's really about the privacy and security measurement is super strict here because you have to have a data processing agreement in place with every vendor you're working with, etc., etc. I know that's the same in the US as well, but Europe is really someone is coming into your office and really wants to see those papers, not manually signed, but at least you have to show that. You also have to have a privacy officer here. So when you, and even when you look far beyond GDPR, when you look at HIPAA, for instance, it's even worse. So when you go in the health sector, etc., etc., etc. So here, in most of the cases, bigger companies do their using maybe tools, but then they must be hosted in Europe at least. So outside the US, it's not working. Then the other thing is really what customer, and that is the second question, so to say, is what I would always recommend. It's about people. We are talking about technology and tools and stuff, but it's the people behind the machines who leaking something, for instance, or by accident doing something not secure in the software, and then something is leaked. So I would also implement a kind of a data governance framework. So whenever new data is coming in, verify the sources, stuff like that. So for me, this is really super important. And then really make it visible to the organization. So it's okay when you for so in marketing again, when you have an ICP, so ideal customer profile, and your current fill rate is 5%. That's not good, but you have to work on that. So what I mean with that is really you have to establish a, a framework of transparency to look at the data, not saying there's missing something. You have to implement something to say, hey, what do we do now with this information? I think this is missing currently at big companies. That's at least my take from that.
Yeah, no, super
Yeah,
fascinating.
I think I want to just, I agree very much what the previous speaker said, right? Is the training of your staff and even training of your customer how to handle the data, right? I think normally the mistakes are made by people, involved party doesn't know the technology so much. I think other than so, I don't see the technology itself has any risk. So that's my experience. Thanks.
Okay, yeah, well, thank you for that. I think, this has been, yeah, like I said, we could go on literally, we could probably do 3 hours just talking about the bottlenecks and challenges, I think. But to keep it pretty narrow in mind that we are on a limited time today, I'd like to move on to talking about maximizing ROI and revenue growth. And so, Ken, maybe since you just jumped in at the end on the last topic, I think, how about we'll start with you on this particular topic. So, how can companies ensure continuous ROI measurement and sustain long-term growth through AI initiatives?
I think it's important to put ROI on the things on the topic, right? I think it's critical for me. I try to make as tangible as possible. So the technical support and every phone call, every email reply, I track on that so that customer is happy, and I track that is part of my ROI. Uh, Matrix. So I don't have those matrix as lead, take the sales lead or those pipelines. That's in a separate issue. To me, it's more taking care customer support because we can't manage too many leads. So we can manage maybe between 5 to 10 leads at a time. So I'm not focusing on sales lead. I'm focusing on happy customer, so that's my ROI.
Yeah, I see. And actually, and then I'd like to come back to Paul too at this point too, when we're talking about ROI, and you were mentioning costs and potential ballooning costs sometimes, or like increased costs of implementation, Paul, in the previous section, and that could be a potential bottleneck or challenge that people face. Um, and I'm curious, do you have any recommendations on what people can do to keep costs in mind, keep costs down, and that it maybe if people want to implement Einstein, for example, like that could be a high cost, but is there an integration model that can be used to find the right package for people?
Right. Yeah. So in more complex deployments, it's kind of a difficult question to ask. But when I look at success and cost, in addition to ROI, the basic business case drivers, margins, revenue, and cost impacts on key P&L items. And asking the questions, in front of the CEO. So, did we meet or exceed business value related to this particular use case or initiative? Being able to give an answer to that question. The other thing that's kind of interesting that I'm seeing is factors around disruption and factors around adoption as key success drivers. So disruption, it could be a good thing as well as maybe a not so good of a bad thing, if you would. So a lot of companies are looking at their, business model disruption, which could be a good thing. It could have impact on the products and services that we sell and go to market with. It could change pricing models to our advantage or increase and shift ways which we engage with customers in more new and creative ways, if you would. And then there's the good old operating model disruption, which presents challenges and success. People, team, and skills we talked about, process, systems, technology change, data requirements. The question I got is like, how is disruption being measured within the organization as a success driver? But I think ultimately, um, the question is, were we able to fully deploy into production and achieve full adoption of this particular use case, application, or program? A lot of them hang in a pilot or proof of concept and die on the vine, is what I'm finding. And basically, they hang them and kind of are on that treadmill because of trust issues or legal or regulatory issues or customer readiness. Chris mentioned ethics, risk, and security. So being able to incorporate, the success, like, are we in production? Is it fully adopted? Are crucial to success.
Nice. Yeah, Chris or Irvin, any follow-ups in terms of this topic or one of these other bullet points you'd like to speak to?
Yeah, maybe so since I'm from marketing and sales, more from this corner, I would talk about a little bit maybe about lead generation and sales conversion, how AI could or automation could help us. So for me, really, in the topic of lead generation and conversion, it's really about there are a lot of tools out there where you can have a one-to-one communication, or at least it sounds like a one-to-one communication, which is super successful, really. So take the topics, for instance, from a post, not just saying company, hi, XYZ, company, blah, blah, blah. It really connects to your latest post you had on LinkedIn, as an example, and then writing into a comment, which is auto-generated, and the conversion rates are quite high, and the connections they are accepting is quite high. So this is something I really could recommend, because we are doing the same as well. And by the way, this is GDPR compliant, so that's okay, because they're in one network, which is important in Europe. The other thing is more about lead conversion. So if you have a funnel, the traditional lead scoring model is not working any longer, from my perspective. A simple reason: because when you set it up, you do this on explicit data like job title, industry, whatever, and behavioral data. But the moment you switch it on, it's old already, because you need 30 to 50 touch points at least. So some people talking about 100 touch points today, because we are talking to millenniums in a lot of cases. So in a person, a static model cannot handle that. So the future is really predictive lead scoring, where you every day see where the customer is in your journey to convert them. And on the other hand, the sales conversion, yeah, with the data enrichment through AI tools, it could really help you to prioritize your leads you go after, because yeah, time is money, as we know. And this is something AI could really help in sales to drive the conversion.
Yeah, just to add on to that, totally agree with Evan with those comments. But when I look at AI metrics, we talked about going across a customer journey and now incorporating where's AI going to play in this customer journey. But then what are the crucial AI metrics across that journey? And we just talked about conversion, but I look at accuracy as one of them. Like, how accurate is
Right.
the AI territory call plan and sales forecast that we defined in that
Yeah.
particular journey? Or there's precision, right? How of all the automated text that's being generated in an email or a proposal, how precise is that to our brand and to our overall messaging and to what we're trying to communicate to the customer? There's recall. Talking about, did I leverage the last three quotes for this next quote that I'm doing for my client to make a price or that quote more optimal to win. And then also there's engagement. Are my customers engaging with my guided selling chatbot or not related to it? So in addition to the business outcome metrics that we talked about related to business case, what are specific AI metrics that we can utilize to fine tune and learn from those particular outcomes? I think those are crucial.
Mm.
Great, thank you for that. Um, Chris, would you like to comment here?
Sure. So I've always liked ad tech. That was really in my background, programmatic advertising for social and search engines. Now with AI, you have the ability to go text to video advertising without implementing an entire marketing team or outside creative design team, which is really phenomenal. So you're able to go from A B test to A to Z test if you really wanted to leverage some of that marketing side. What I found is that in your organization, there's this WINS framework. It's a Harvard Business Review framework by Paul Beyer of GAI Insights. He says that we should think about implementing AI in a WINS framework. And WINS means that this area that's a win is going to be impacted by AI. And win stands for words, images, numbers, and sounds. So as you look at your organization, you might find that marketing has the best, quickest, fastest win right now in lead generation. But maybe the more sustainable long-term solution is going to be tying in traditional AI and systems with new generative AI techniques, maybe for IoT and AI implementations and digital twins in the manufacturing realm. So there's a lot of different opportunities now for AI, and I think that it's important that organizations understand what's now and today and affordable and fast, and enable their marketing team to take off, and then also enable some of their other teams that are deeper in the value chain to start utilizing and looking into AI to find that trust, because they may not be purchasing it this year, but they need to know what's going to go on over the next 5.
Totally agree. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, great. Well, thank you all. It's a fascinating area. There's so many places we could go, but I do want to keep us on track and respecting the time box we have today. So I'd like to move on to just a little bit of discussion around continuous improvement and innovation, because implementing and getting around roadblocks and putting things into action in the real world is one thing, but then how you keep that going, how you make that sustainable, how you change maybe your company's culture or your perspective from the ground up, these kinds of topics. And so we'll come back to Ken again, just because of the order of rotation of speaking. I'd like to give everyone some equal time. So Ken, in terms of continuous improvement, do you have any insights on how companies can leverage performance data or insights to guide iterative improvements in their AI and automation strategies, or anything else you'd like to speak to from your perspective on this?
For me, it's more, I want to build my product and solution automate, simplified. So our customer doesn't need to worry so much about the operation. It's a big area called AI ops, right? So there we have a number of patents in this area, and we we have our proprietary technology here. I think this is the key for uh, enterprise adoption of private 5G network solution. So that's we put a lot of effort here. Make it as simple as possible, as simple as the Wi-Fi. That's my ambition. Thanks.
Nice. Um, yeah, I love it. Any comments from the rest of the panel, or other comments that you'd like to make? Maybe we can go to back to you, Paul, at the top of the
Yeah, and
round here.
I was just thinking about the sequencing of those questions. It really comes into really a continuous learn, refine, and optimize approach, standard methodology for automation strategies, right? Getting the KPIs together so that can be lead conversion rates or customer acquisition cost, average revenue per. What's the key KPI that we're looking at? Customer lifetime value. Getting the data collection mechanism in place, as Ken talked about. Then how do we analyze and interpret that data? Where's the human touch point to identify pattern trends and insights of all this data that's coming through our AI initiatives? But also reaching out to customers or users and getting their feedback. Employees, partners, get the qualitative insights to overlay onto the AI automation, and then monitor the social media, the online reviews, and then target those areas for improvement. And really, the concept of launch, learn, and relaunch, that approach and that mindset, I think is critical for a feedback loop, and especially critical for AI.
Nice. Very good. Thank you for that, Paul. Uh, Irvin, would you like to jump in here
Yeah,
and
I
maybe?
just so Paul was saying everything already, more or less, at least from my perspective. But for me, when I would start an initiative, really, it's really to define a clear objective. Then you have to assign the KPIs from my point of view, and then yes, start, try it out. We have to learn, find the right people who can support you in this project. Find young crazy people to yeah really to think we say to think around the corner. I don't know if this translates into English, but
Mm-hmm.
not only the objective must be clear, but the way to the objective is maybe different. And then maybe the last thing is really think long about your infrastructure and your infrastructure cost. What will it cost you at the end of the day?
Nice. I like that. Um, g- Paul, do you mind if I just dwell for just a moment before I'd like to hear from Chris as well before we change topics? But on, could you say again, was it learn, launch, and relaunch?
Launch, learn,
Launch,
and relaunch.
learn, and relaunch. Yeah, that's
That comes.
that's a
That's
new
an
one
old
for
one.
me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
So
an old one. All right.
that comes from my .com days.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a quote I can't take credit. It comes from an author and technologist, Faisal Haq, that I worked with in my first startup. And it's interesting. I've used that through my entire career, and it resonates. And we are in a time now where we have to launch, learn, and relaunch.
Nice. Yeah. Very cool. Reminds me of a quote that says the illiteracy of the future isn't those who can't read and write, but those who can't uh, unlearn and relearn, basically. Yeah. So yeah. Chris, any comments before we leave this particular topic and go into our closing few minutes?
So all I would encourage is that groups within the organization start testing and playing with AI. The best way to use it is to actually use it yourself so you sort of understand the capabilities and why generative AI is different than traditional AI. AI as a science has been around for 65 years essentially. Generative AI is fairly new. So learn how to utilize generative AI in areas that may be all public knowledge. You know, maybe you're not tying into your internal databases first, but you're using information to create maybe chatbots to handle support ticketing or fax areas on your website that's already customer facing, that's not mission critical if you lose it, and it sort of helps navigate the user through that experience. So really encourage your organization to allow AI projects that are low cost, high value. And if you can find the ones that really make sense, you can then build around those and make those an enterprise solution deeper in your organization.
Mhm.
Fantastic. Thank you. Yeah, I agree. Um, Now, I think all along the way, you've each dropped really valuable insights in terms of practical solutions, how you actually uh, go about thinking about these things and actually putting them into practice. So not just theoretical, but what you've learned and seen from your respective experiences. But are there any parting bits of advice you'd like to offer to people in terms of what immediate actions they can take to implement AI and automation effectively?
Yeah, I'll start. I help a lot of organizations with how to start and where to start. So start with assessing the AI capability with your current platform and software vendors. Understand what's commercially available now. Review with them the product roadmap. You know, look for a pilot. This is the least risk and the least cost option to start getting things started. And there's a lot of great things happening with HubSpot and Salesforce and Zoho and CRM type of platforms out there. The second thing I do is get a policy in place, data access, data sharing, procedures for a data breach, ethical use type of clauses. That should be done. Cleanse your data, as we talked about, but really it's preparing your people again for AI. It's a change management process, upskilling people, finding the champions, the functional leaders within your organization, and really focusing on how we're going to have people working with AI and machines. So these would be my immediate actions for 2024 to get started.
Nice. Thanks for that.
I totally agree with what Paul was saying, really. And start small and then scale.
Nice. Very good. Thanks for that. Any parting words from Chris or Ken?
On my end, I would say that for your organization, come up with a policy of use, learn, focus first on prompt engineering and using, go into GPTs or building these smart agents and learning what these GPTs can do for automation or handling workloads in your organization. And if you do those two things this year, maybe look at RAG, that retrieval augmented generation, to build chatbots trained on your data, and then figure out how those three components can move into more enterprise solutions in your organization.
Love it. Yeah, thanks very much. And
Yeah,
Ken,
I think from my side is because I have long experience. I working with people with quite a long experience in this field, and the domain knowledge is important for AI. And so most of the people asking me, what's what can AI contribute? I think I tell them avoid basic problem issues. So I do ask people put insert the knowledge, the domain knowledge in the AI engine, not only trusting the data, because data only cover part of you can't cover everything, but the domain knowledge will help you quite a long way. Thanks.
nice. Yeah, I think that's good practical parting solution as well. Well, thank you everyone. That's going to be a wrap for today. We are a little bit over time, just a couple of minutes. We started about a couple minutes late here, but a huge thank you to fantastic panelists. And I think there's a key takeaway here, which is that AI and automation for revenue growth, they aren't one company shows, so to speak. It's a team sport. We've heard how various specialists, each excelling in their areas, contribute to the success of the strategy. And so I think if we want you to take away one thing to remember, it's that all these powerful apps, they need to seamlessly communicate with each other. And that's where the concept of tech stacking comes in. And so by carefully choosing and integrating best-in-class solutions, you're going to be able to create a powerful unified system that fuels your revenue engine. And this isn't a competition between different technologies. It's about collaboration. It's about interoperability. And the most successful companies that I know of, at least, leverage the strengths of various AI and automation tools working together to achieve a common goal. So it isn't just about going all in on one solution. And if you want to see what this looks like in practice, we have another webinar coming up on May 16th. And it's titled From Strategy to Action, Accelerating Enterprise Revenue Growth with AI and Automation. We'll be showcasing a lot of real world use case studies and of companies who have successfully implemented these tools. So we'll send out reminders and registration links again in our follow-up email, along with the recording and resources from today's discussion. And so thank you again to everybody who participated, and let's continue this conversation and build winning teams through effective tech stacking. I hope that this is something we can continue discussing offline as well. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Bye bye.